I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about UFC Middleweight Champion Alex Pereira blast Brendan Schaub over Khamzat Chimaev comments. Brendan Schaub is running his mouth. UFC Middleweight Champion Alex Pereira isn't happy with Brendan Schaub. Let's just skip that part. Let's skip all of that. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay. Alex Pereira seems ready to make a quick scene. Alex Pereira was seemingly ready to make a quick turnaround during a recent appearance on the MMA Hour. The newly crowned middleweight champion revealed plans to return in January, 2 months later against Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev had called for the clash previously, but allegedly declined the 283 booking as it would take place at light heavyweight. Oh, wow. How about that? I guess Alex Pereira was offering to take the fight up to light heavyweight and not be for his middleweight championship. Nevertheless, the Brazilian Alex Pereira was open to the fight, partially due to his want to shut up. Brendan Schaub, the fighter turned podcaster, which recently proclaimed that Pereira would, quote, be easily out-wrestled by Chimaev if the fight took place. Schaub also opined that the champion couldn't defeat anyone in the top 5 at 100 and... Hold on, I'm sorry. That doesn't seem... Okay, we have to come back to that point because I just said Alex Pereira is the middleweight champion, so he had to defeat somebody in the top 5. But okay, let's just keep going. During Pereira's appearance on the MMA Hour, Pereira responded to Schaub. The middleweight champion proposed a bet. What's going on with the UFC fighters and betting? What are you talking about? Okay, proposed a bet with the podcaster for when the fight with Chimaev happens. This is Alex Pereira talking to Brendan Schaub. Brendan Schaub, I think he was running his mouth. Pereira stated through his translator. Brendan talked a lot of crap that Chimaev would run me over. Now he said that Chimaev would be able to take Alex down in 30 seconds. Here's the deal. Pereira will fight Chimaev in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, regardless of being injured at 205 pounds. And he's proposing to do a bet with Brendan Schaub. This is what the translator said. The translator said he's running his mouth $50,000 if Alex Pereira beats Chimaev. That's $50,000 from both sides. We'll donate to kids in needs. Also, 50 more that he doesn't take Alex. That okay. It's a lot of he's. We also bet another $50,000 that Chimaev doesn't take down Pereira in 30 seconds. We'll double those 50 to put it towards charity. Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know what's really going on with this story. They don't really say about what he said about Brendan and did he really blast him and stuff like that. He just started talking about betting. I thought they were going to say that he was saying something crazy about Brendan Schaub. Maybe that's in another part of the interview, but I didn't really read anything here that really says, I didn't really see him blast Brendan Schaub almost at all. He just proposed that he makes a bet with Brendan Schaub that Chimaev wouldn't be able to take him down within 30 seconds. That's just like a bet. But, the real part of this story, there's a lot of meat to the story that actually really has something to do with Schaub. We have to start first with what Schaub was saying, because it seems like I'm about to blast Schaub, right? Like, what's going on? Did we skip that part? Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Here's what Schaub said that really, kind of gets me pissed off. Schaub said that Alex Pereira couldn't defeat anyone in the UFC top 5 in the UFC middleweight in a top. Hold on, how do you say this? In the top 5 at middleweight. Okay, any middleweight fighters in top 5. That makes no sense. Okay, let me see. How do you say this correctly? He said he couldn't defeat any top 5 ranked middleweight. How about that? Right, that sounds about right. So Schaub said that Alex Pereira couldn't defeat any top 5 UFC middleweight. Now, okay, first, to get the championship fight, Alex Pereira had to fight Sean Strickland. And from what I understand, Sean Strickland was, I don't know if he's still ranked in the top 5, but I'm pretty sure he was ranked in the top 5. If he wasn't top 5, he was probably ranked 6 or 7 at the lowest. But I think he was ranked like number 4 when I say he, I mean Sean Strickland. I believe Sean Strickland was ranked number 4 when Alex Pereira fought him. Alex Pereira knocked out Sean Strickland in the first round. So let's just say that, okay, let's say Sean Strickland wasn't a top 5 fighter, if you just want to play that game, he still ended up defeating Israel Adesanya, who was the current champion. So I'm pretty sure he's in the top 5. So I don't really understand. Those are just 2 examples of fighters in the top 5 that Pereira has already defeated. So maybe he's talking about maybe a fighter like Robert Whittaker. That could be a good fight. I wouldn't put my $50,000 on Robert Whittaker being able to defeat Pereira. Or maybe he's talking about Marvin Vettori. I wouldn't put $50,000 down on Vettori to defeat Pereira. And maybe he's talking about Paulo Costa. I probably would put $50,000 down for Alex Pereira to defeat Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa looked terrible in his last fight. He fought Luke Rockhold. He looked tired, so I would not go too far with the idea that Pereira couldn't defeat anybody in the top 5. I have him defeating almost all of everybody in the top 5. You would say Israel, Sean Strickland, Marvin Vettori, Costa, Whittaker. So some of those names aren't as scary to me as a fighter like Chimaev. Now, Chimaev is a different monster there, right? But Chimaev is still fighting it in welterweight division. So we'll see if he does come up to the middleweight division. I do like this beef that's brewing between these 2 fighters. I do like that. I think that the next fight will be Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. It makes sense. Adesanya probably isn't going to be out that much time. So it would make sense for them to fight next. I like that Pereira offered to fight Chimaev at UFC 283 in Brazil at 205 pounds. That's kind of interesting because obviously Pereira does cut a lot of weight. There's been some stories that when he fights at middleweight, he comes into the fight at like above 200 pounds. I don't know if it's 220. That may be a little bit high. But I do believe Pereira walks around like 220 pounds. So Pereira is a very big boy for the middleweight division, and he has to cut a lot of weight. So you would not imagine him offering to fight Chimaev at middleweight 2 months after fighting at middleweight in November. And Chimaev obviously would probably not want to fight Alex Pereira at 205 because it's kind of like, what's the benefit for him winning? Obviously, if he beats him at 205, then he could probably just basically demand a fight at middleweight. But Pereira isn't the middleweight champion, and Pereira hasn't fought. Pereira isn't the light heavyweight champion, so there's really no upside to Chimaev fighting at 205 pounds. I don't know if Chimaev has ever fought at 205 pounds. I know there was a rumor maybe a year ago that he wanted to be 3 times champion, welterweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight champion. That seems like a reach. But we'll see what happens in 2023. A lot of, you know, a lot of fighters seem like they want to fight next year. I do like this. The UFC does seem like they're trying to push Chimaev in to the welterweight division, and they want his next fight, I guess, to be versus Colby Covington. But Chimaev missed weight in his last fight. He was supposed to fight Nate Diaz at welterweight in, when was it, September of this year? I believe it was September of this year's. But Chimaev came in at 177 pounds, so he missed weight in the welterweight division. So I like the idea of Chimaev going up to middleweight, but I don't know what the UFC is trying to do with Chimaev. It seems like they are trying to push him down to the welterweight division, but it seems like he's trying to, you know, he's throwing his name into the middleweight conversation. And I, for one, would love to see Alex Pereira versus Khamzat Chimaev in 2023. But let me know your opinion of this story. I know a lot of people give Brendan Schaub a lot of crap, and like I said, I didn't really think Alexander really blasted Brendan Schaub too much in this. I just thought, instead of saying, you know, this thing about, hey, we'll make a bet with you about $50,000 about who wins and who loses, that's not really a good look right now, because the UFC is going through not a huge betting scandal, but a pretty big betting scandal. And I don't think they really want their fighters out there talking about, hey, let's make another bet on who's going to win or lose this fight. So it's just not a good look for the UFC to have the fighters or translators or managers or anybody in the sport talk anything about betting right now. It's not a good look for the UFC. But let me know your opinion of this crazy story. Do you agree with Brendan Schaub that Alex Pereira couldn't defeat any of the top 5 ranked middleweights in the division, in the middleweight division, or do you think that's just complete crap? And do you agree with me that you want to see a Chimaev and Alexander Pereira fight in 2023? I'm Jason UFC. Today we had a story about UFC middleweight champion Alex Pereira. I'm not going to say he blasts Brendan, because after reading this story, I didn't really think he blasts. I'm just going to say Alex Pereira responds to Brendan Schaub comments. Brendan Schaub comments about Khamzat Chimaev being able to take Alex Pereira down in 30 seconds. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.